Hi guys, this is Milton with bowingarrow.com. Just wanted to do a little video showing you how to serve a string, put the serving on a string. So first thing I do is find where the arrow is going to be knocked to make sure I've got everything covered. Got a good long space on below it, mainly because that's where most people's hand is below where the arrow is knocked, the majority of your hand anyway. So I'll start wrapping it on, and I use a Dacron and polyester serving myself. I prefer it over the hard nylon, like fishing line kind of stuff. You can put a good wax on it, a good beeswax on it, and keep it on there all the time, and it just seems to last longer. And you need a serving jig, which that little black thing is, and we'll put a few wraps on the end, then we'll stop and clip the end off, and then we'll get the tension just right on that jig, and you can just start flying and get all the way to the other end. Save yourself about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch. That's usually about 15 to 20 wraps. I like to get the ends turned under 15 or 20 wraps to hold it good. Cut yourself a loop in some string. I prefer the bowstring because it's slick and it slides out from under the wrap real easy. I'll tape one end of it down with a piece of masking tape for just a moment. Hold the other end good and snug, and do about 15 or 20 wraps over top of that loop. You'll see here in a second. Then I'll stop and cut the serving, thread it through the end of the loop, the far end of the loop, and then get my needle nose pliers and just use the handle normally to put through the other end of the loop. Now here I am threading the end of the serving through the loop that I taped down. Put the end through and then hold it. Hold it snug so it won't come unwrapped. Then get the pliers in the loop and pull it snug, and then reach and pull it all the way back through, and then the end comes down through that 15-20 wraps. Clip the end off, and we'll put some beeswax on that in a few minutes, and it'll all lay down and be nice and snug. Now we've got to find the center again. This is where your arrow knock is going to be. So I just cut me a little piece of masking tape and use a drafting square. I don't use a bow square. I don't use all that fancy stuff. Now I know that's where my knock's going to be, so I prefer to use some serving on either side of where the knock is going to be instead of a metal knock, because sometimes I want to be able to, as you've seen my other videos, shoot with my left hand all of a sudden, and I may not have a glove on protecting my fingers, so I don't want a metal knock on my string there pulling the hide off my finger if I decide to switch around and shoot with my left hand. So we'll start this serving just at the edge of that tape, and we'll wrap it around a few times just like we did the main part of the serving there a few minutes ago. Sometimes you have to mess with it a little because it'll come unwound. It's a little aggravating to get started, but patience is, you have to use a lot of patience with a lot of this work. So we'll get the end pulled back just a little to tighten that loop up. Don't pull it too much or the whole thing will come out. Then we'll spin this thing around a few licks and we'll cut that end off again. This is just like serving the big part. So now we'll cut that end off that's laying down parallel to the string. Now we can get that tension just right and whip it around a few times. Do the end again, just like we did before. Lay that loop down parallel on the string. Tape one end of it down to hold it still. If you don't, it's going to twist around, around, around. Hold the other end with my hand and give it 15 or 20 turns. I like to get that tension just right on that serving jig. Helps everything out a whole lot better. Get our turns on there. The tape out of the way. It's in the way. Then we'll cut that end loose and stick it through that loop again, just like we did on the other end. Give it some slack out there. Clip it loose, stick it through the loop, all this string that I use has beeswax on it already, so it sticks to your fingers, it sticks together, all kinds of things, but it works really well and it's very, very strong. So get that other end of the loop opened up and get my handle of my needle nose pliers in there for a handle. There we go, snug it up, now pull it through and then clip the end off. And we'll do the same thing on the other end, on the other side of the knock of where the arrow is going to be knocked. There we go, get it started good. This is the most aggravating part, getting it started and then holding it still while you start turning it. Feel like you ought to have 4 hands sometimes. Get a few wraps on it, and I'll snug that. I'll pull that loop because it's a little loose right now where it started. So pulling that end of that back just a little bit right there helps get all that slack out. Now we're ready to give a few turns here. Then we'll cut that end off again. Now I'm serving this on a pyramid style bow, and so it is liable to be shot from either side. So I did one that you can just shoot it from either side or either end. It doesn't have an up or a down. Sometimes that doesn't cooperate just right, but it saves a lot of time when you get it going just right. So there we go. We'll stop it now and lay our loop down, tape it down, snip our ends off, send it through just like the other one. About 15, 20 turns, whatever's necessary. Doesn't take that much. I keep my serving jig pretty tight, so it doesn't take that much to hold that end in there. And I beeswax it real good and heavy, so all that wax just in time just melts in there and almost makes that string feel like one piece. Get all the tape out of the way. The loop open, pull my jig, get some string out, cut it off, and thread it through. And that's about all there is to serving the string. I appreciate you watching. Give me a look over at thebowingarrow.com. See if there's anything you just can't live without. Thanks, guys.